All of the early mornings and late nights,
coming home after an exhausting hunt,
putting in all the extra work, even when people aren't watching.
and just wanting to crawl into bed, but you sit down and you clear your SD cards and you organize your footage.
It's all the little things and all the things that add up to be successful.
And you pack your bag for the next morning just to lug in another 50-pound bag just at the chance.
It allows me to go out there and do what I love and show everyone that just being an average person, you can put in a little bit of extra work or a lot of extra work and you can get something out of it.
The chance of sharing a story like the stories we're about to share.
Really, you can pretty much do whatever you set your mind to as long as you grind.
Oh my god. There's does behind me, downwind of me. Look at that, 6:28. I had 4 minutes left of legal shooting. Sunset was at 6:02 today. So that means I had till 6:32. That was, I can't believe that just happened. I'm gonna try to light up my face so you can actually see me a little bit. Like I said, 4 minutes left. I saw a big body behind me. Well, I was keeping an eye on these does, and today was wild. Today was wild. I was keeping an eye on these does back here. I saw a big body buck, and he started walking in. I couldn't tell who he was. I was trying so hard to get the camera on. That was a mess. I finally got the camera on him, and I realized it was KJ, the one I passed on a few days ago, or last weekend. I mean, really nice buck, but he's young, so I passed on him. And I was watching KJ, and KJ started to move, and he walked out of frame, so I was going to move the camera, and then another buck walked into frame, and it was Johnny walking right behind KJ. He was behind me back in this mode area where we keep, or where we have a fire pit and stuff, and my brother likes to have friends. And he walked right up to the creek, and I had pre-ranged it at 35, and I had my bow at 35. I might actually have to sit tight for a little bit. There's a really big body coming, big body deer coming behind me. I hear.
So Colin and I went back and we reviewed the footage, and we kind of stayed a little too optimistic. The shot was definitely high and it was way too far forward. But we were thinking maybe he was kind of quartered too, and it hit on the top right of that front shoulder, so maybe it came in and hit and you could tell it hit the other shoulder because it did not exit. So we're like, if it hit the other shoulder, it might have come in line enough to clip one of the lungs. So we're thinking came in above the shoulder, kind of to the front side of it, and hit one of the lungs. That's what we thought. And we thought, you know, we're gonna give him a little extra time. We sat there for a while, but we decided we were gonna go in, and he was definitely gonna be dead. So we loaded up the gator, drove out there, and basically took up the blood trail, and right away there's a lot of blood. My brother he's been a huge help tonight. Shout out to Justin. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep quiet. He put the gator on his trailer for me and then hooked it up to my truck, and we just drove almost all the way in, but parked back here still in this little path on the way in, and we're gonna walk in. I'm gonna show Colin where I shot him and see if we can see blood, or I think the arrow might be stuck in him, so probably won't find the arrow, but come with, we're gonna go see what we see.
There's absolutely no way that's gonna show up on the video, I don't think. Alright. So there's a little bit more blood right there.
You're the blood eye. You've got a freaking eye for it. After that, does he? There's some.
There's a lot there. Oh my gosh, look at all
does
that.
He cuts back
It's
this
everywhere.
way, doesn't he?
Holy crap. Look at all that.
Now we're making noise.
Oh my gosh, look at all that. Dude, there is blood. It looks, he crashed right here, I guarantee you. Look at the blood all over.
It's got to be in that bush, dude. Look at this.
Look at this. Look at all that.
Dude, it's just face. Oh my god, Colin, it's face. Where the fuck did he go?
Holy crap.
Look at all that. We went in the area where I thought I heard him crash, and it was just 10-foot tall, just bushes of just thick cover. And he had dove right into the middle of it. So we were thinking he dove in there and he went in there to die. There's blood spraying everywhere. We ended up finding half the arrow. It had broke off. It had broke off about that much of the arrow in his other shoulder with the broadhead, and then came back out the entry hole. And so we found that arrow soaked in blood. There's blood everywhere. Colin's like, he's gonna be in this little thicket. He's gonna be in here. He has to be. We searched all through that. He wasn't there. We start following the blood towards the neighbor's property, and Colin's like, okay, he's got to be dead before we get to the neighbor's property. He's lost too much blood. We follow blood all the way up to the neighbor's property, and this is where we really can't do this story justice, because you had to be there. You had to be feeling the emotions, putting in the time with us to really understand how this story went. But basically we get to the fence line, and I like the neighbor. He's a really nice guy, so I wanted to do him the courtesy of getting his permission first. But it had already gotten to be like 10 o'clock at night, so I was texting him and he wasn't replying, and I decided, you know, we're not gonna wait till who knows when in the morning and coyotes are gonna get him or something. So I set the bow down, we crossed the fence, and we were back on the trail. And we tracked him, and blood would get heavier, and then it'd pitter out, and then all of a sudden there was no blood. And Colin, I mean, there's a reason that some people call Colin a bloodhound. That dude can find blood anywhere. Basically, we went for like 200 yards with no blood, and he just found a speck that made it look like the deer crossed the creek. Get to the other side of the creek, and sure enough, he started spraying again when he jumped up the side of the creek. And so we're tracking him again, Get to a cornfield. Track all the way through the cornfield. We're still on him. Somehow Colin's still finding blood. We weave our way up through the cornfield into another piece of woods on the neighbor's property. Now we're getting towards someone's house, kind of. And we get over by a little pond over there, and blood stops. And we search all around the pond. We're thinking, you know, he's going to be down in this bottom somewhere, but I decided we were going to pull out. We had already gone almost a full mile. It was about 2 in the morning. I decided we were going to pull out. I was going to text the neighbor and see if we could go in the morning. And that's what we did. I go in with the neighbor at like 8 in the morning, and we search around, and same thing, there's blood in that last spot. He shows me some of the areas where the deer like to go in bed when they die, but basically has this giant piece of thick woods, like the whole piece of woods is bedding. And it's super thick, so he basically said, yeah, you're not going to find it just blind searching in here if he is dead. I'll keep an eye out on the trail cameras, and if there's a lot of coyotes showing up or something, I'll let you know and you come back and look for him. So we basically gave up. I was only able to hunt the one day this weekend. That day, after looking for him in the morning, I had to head back to school, and basically just went back to school not knowing if this deer was alive or dead. It is November 4th, finally in November, and Thursday I just got done with class. I'm headed back to Decoy from school. Colin and I tracked blood with Johnny for, I think I figured it was 970 yards or something is what we got tracking it. So almost a quarter mile, and it's nuts to me. He lost a ton of blood, but then it started to clot up, and I mean, I found my arrow, but the broadhead was broke off. It must be, I think it's in his opposite shoulder, but I think I just got like neck meat and maybe just went right over top of the front part of a lung. I'm gonna check trail cameras tomorrow afternoon, figure out what to do about that stand, maybe cut some shooting lanes, but maybe even get out and walk. And I'm gonna scout some public land, because if the wind is really shitty for the farm this weekend, I might have to go on a little public mission. So stay tuned. If I do go do that, I'll bring you guys with. Otherwise, I'll see you in the stand tomorrow. So I went home and I knew I had to come up with a plan, and that's what I did. And the wind was bad. It was really windy and it was out of the wrong direction, but I decided Johnny's in the area. He's still alive. I don't know how long he's going to be alive for. I'm going to go in with a plan and I'm going to get it done. So the next morning I woke up earlier than I ever do. I went in like an hour before, I was probably in the stand an hour before legal shooting. I had set up the decoy so that I had basically set it, I was facing to the west, and I had set it off to my left because the wind was blowing kind of left to right, and I knew that any deer that wanted to get downwind of that decoy would have to circle right in front of me. So that's how I set it up. And I set up in that same stand where the year prior I had drew back on him on Halloween. I set up in that stand. I knew it was a slim chance I was going to see him, but I knew he was in the area. I knew this put me close to the neighbor's property where all these deer were, and I had the decoy to try to convince one to come over. So that's the plan I came up with, and now is just time to execute on it. The next morning, I put the plan into action, and I did everything that I had planned out, but I was not very optimistic. Like I said, it had been a really frustrating couple days before that, and it looked like the farm was going back to the way it did in 2020. It started about 10 minutes before legal shooting. I could see the silhouette of a deer out in the field, and I didn't really know what deer it was, but then I saw a second one, and the second one really caught my attention. That silhouette looked like there was a cow out in the field, and I really knew that it could only be one deer. And then sure enough, the sun came up, and I realized, yep, that's Johnny, for sure, that's Johnny. I turned sideways, put my bow in my left hand and put my left hand down, and then run the camera arm with my right hand. That's how I set up, and I decided I was going to sit there until these deer either came in or until they left, because I wasn't going to be able to get away with the movement of grabbing my bow or anything while these deer were coming towards me, especially because of where the decoy was. They would have been looking directly at me, and I hadn't really thought that part through during my plan, so I decided I was going to suffer it, hold my bow all morning, and see if I get a shot. So basically, while the sun was coming up, I watched them feed in the corn for a while, and a couple other bucks actually came in, and Johnny would walk them off, and a bunch of other deer moved through. There's some does that came in. I saw KJ, I saw another nice buck. And basically, Johnny just kind of stood next to this doe and just walked the edge of the field, making sure no other deer came into the field where he had this doe. And sure enough, I could see the big gaping hole in his neck, and it was Johnny. A couple of times during this session of deer coming in and out, Johnny and this doe actually walked back to where I think they came into the field and looked like they were going to leave 2 or 3 different times. And each time my heart would sink, and I thought that this is it. He's leaving. He's going to die of like an infection. I'm never going to see this deer again. And then all of a sudden they'd circle back and come back and feed in the field a little more. And it was just almost just pulling at my heartstrings, not sure if I'm going to get a shot at this deer. The whole time this is going on the other side of this kind of small field, so it's probably about 95 yards away is where all this was happening. I think I ranged it somewhere in there. And then after about an hour of this back and forth, she beds down in the cut corn. And he stayed on his feet and he kind of circled around her and he'd walk all these other deer off. And I actually grunted at him a couple times and he'd kind of pick his head up and he just didn't seem to see this decoy. And I'm wondering now if what I'm thinking was the problem. After watching the footage is I think the sun was coming up directly behind me and he would look into the sun and couldn't see this decoy, because a couple times I grunted and he would pick his head up and wouldn't do anything, but he was walking all these other bucks. When another buck would come in, he'd walk them away and make sure they stayed away from the doe. So I'm thinking, if he sees this decoy, why would he not come and do the same thing? But now I'm thinking he was looking directly into the sun and he had no idea that decoy was there. And this actually gets confirmed later on in this story. After a while, he beds down with her, and actually a young buck comes into the decoy and starts circling the decoy for like 20 minutes. And I thought for sure, great, he's gonna blow, he's gonna spook both these deer, and this is gonna be the end of it. And this young buck circles the decoy, and then he starts going for Johnny. And Johnny gets up on his feet and kind of walks this young buck off and dances around with this young buck and chases it away. And I was like, okay, he's staying with the doe, she stayed bedded down, we're okay, I can still get a chance at this deer. Then I think he bedded back down, but anyway, the Johnny and the doe were bedded back down for like another 20 minutes. So basically I'd been watching these deer for almost 2 hours, and all of a sudden they finally stand up and they look like they're gonna come my way. Then the doe and Johnny start working their way and feeding up on the top towards where they came from again, and again pulls at my heartstrings, and I'm thinking, they're gonna leave and I'm never gonna see them again. This is the end of it. And all of a sudden, I had heard about this, Colin told me a little bit about this, but sometimes these big bucks will actually lead the does, and the does will want to stick with these big mature bucks versus like the young bucks just chase the does around and the does lead them. And I had never seen it, but then all of a sudden he starts coming for a beeline for this corner right here. He just starts coming right at this corner, and I'm thinking, great, he's gonna stay at like 50 yards and he's gonna come right to this crossing in the corner and never come into where I'm at. He's gonna stay at like 50, 60 yards, I'm not gonna get a shot, and this doe's gonna follow right behind and they're gonna go right past. And sure enough, that's what started to happen. He comes down and I didn't get the camera on him so you can't see this, but he squats down and I'm watching him through the binos. He squats down like he's gonna jump the fence, and I'm thinking, great, he's gonna jump the fence. There's no way he's coming back over. This is how it's gonna end. He's gonna go right in front of me at 50 yards, never see him again. Again, I'm thinking it's over. And then the doe actually saved me. He's squatting down like he's gonna jump the fence, and then you can see that as soon as this doe hits the shadow of this tree, the sun's not in her eyes anymore, and she locks onto the decoy. And you see her stop, and she picks her head up like this, and she looks at the decoy, and you can tell she doesn't like it, and she stomps. And he turns around, and he did not like that something was bothering that doe. And he goes straight for the decoy. And that's when things got fun.
footage and make a decision on when to go in after him, but stick with it. Story of Johnny has been a wild one.
So basically, me and Colin watched the footage. We sent it to a bunch of people, and everyone was saying the blood looks dark. It's probably a liver shot, but we knew you're supposed to leave a liver shot for a while. But me and Colin let like 4 hours go by. I shot it at, actually I think it was like 3.5. I shot it at like 9 o'clock. And at about 12:30 we went in after it because we decided it's going to be like 60, 65 degrees during the day. We don't want it to die and then sit there and rot or something like that. So we head in, we cross the fence, and we take up the trail, and there's blood everywhere. We watched the video, and he is dumping blood. Like absolutely dumping it. One more thing for you guys. Look at this broadhead. Is that not intimidating? Look at that. A little fixed on top, mechanical, little hybrid. Had to try something new. See how it did. I nicknamed this Decoy Freight Train because he'll take down anyone. He actually took down a buck last year. This buck bulldozed my decoy and then tripped on him and the buck fell, so that was kind of funny. So that's Freight Train. Freight Train brought Johnny in. Look at this. I got a little bit of this scent on there, and that might have been another reason he came back, is the wind was blowing this way and he got downwind of it. But I threw this little thing to mark where I found the arrow. Let's see if we can find it quick. Look for a little orange blob, a little, right here. So I just threw this little scent that I used this morning to mark where I found the arrow. The arrow is right here. My stand's right there. 20 something yards away. Fully exposed, so I had to stand very still. And there's the decoy. So let's follow blood. So you guys can clearly see right there, he stopped and stood. You could see it in the video. He stopped and stood right here. You can see how much that is. And look at all that. You can see it in different spots. That's insane. You follow that. Basically, he jumps the fence, walks along the corn, and then heads into the trees, and all of a sudden we're not seeing any blood in there. But Colin looks over, he's like, dude, what is that?
Yep.
Alright guys, Colin maybe just saw an antler, we're not sure. We're tracking him in the woods, and Colin just thinks he saw an antler, so I got one. We're inside of 25, I'm just going to put it at 20. And definitely an antler, I can tell if it's
Oh yeah, that's an antler, dude. I think that's him.
Oh, that's him.
Oh yeah, it's him, dude.
Dead? Is he dead?
He's done for.
Dude.
Dude, it's Johnny. Yes, dude.
We started to lose blood. I thought we were going to have another 4-hour track like we did last weekend. Oh, that's him. I thought we were going to have another 4-hour track. He's right here. He didn't go, what, 60, 70 yards?
He went 30 yards after he crossed
After the fence, so 60, 70 total. I'm going to stay ready just in case, but I think he's gone.
Dude, I could just see that antler just barely sticking up above that log.
Good eye, dude.
Oh, dude, it's all ate up.
Oh, that's not him.
That's a different deer?
Yeah.
No way.
Whose deer is that? Alright guys, well the story of Johnny continues. I could cry right now.
Oh my god.
This isn't him. So as you can see, that was another moment where this deer pulled at my heartstrings and messed with my emotions way too much. But it wasn't him, so now it's time to get back on the trail. And we start tracking, and we're basically going through these woods the same way we did the first time we tracked him a week earlier. And we're getting in there, and all of a sudden, boom, he jumps up. We bumped him, he starts running. He went back into the trees in the same little bottom, but basically there's this bottom of trees, and then the cornfield we followed him through the last time, and then the giant thick bedding area up above it where we did not want him to go. I think we just got to give him more time. And I basically just took that hard stance. Me and Colin went back and forth a little bit, and finally he was like, yeah, it's your deer. We're going to do what you say. He wanted to hunt that afternoon, so we decided we were going to go back in right at dark when he's done hunting, and we were going to get back on the trail. So then I ended up getting my buddy Ethan too. Great photographer, great videographer. We wanted him there to be able to film the recovery and take pictures and stuff. Plus, it always helps to have an extra hand to track, and he was nice enough to come out and do that. And Colin made it out right when he was done hunting, and we had already gotten on the trail. But basically, I don't know how much of this is on video, but we basically tracked him the same path that we did the first time. And again, it was blood would pick up, then it would stop, then it'd pick up, then it would stop, and we circled up into the pond area where we had the last time, and then he cut back down into the corn, and then all of a sudden we're going through the corn, and the blood trail's super heavy, and Ethan's kind of off to the left on this blood trail, and me and Colin were kind of right behind him, and all of a sudden he steps and he dives backwards and yells, and you just hear a freight train go running through the corn. And basically Ethan had almost stepped on this deer. It had been bedded down in the corn, and he stepped like 3 or 4 feet from it, and it jumped up and busted through the corn. And then we thought we heard it crash in the woods, so we're like, get back on that trail. This deer had just been bedded there. It's gonna die. We get back on the trail and we start following it, and we bump him again. The neighbor sent me some trail camera pictures of us about 10 minutes behind this deer. You see the deer run by, and it's got corn stalks in its antlers, which actually becomes an important part of the story later. But it's got corn stalks in its antlers, and we're right behind it, and we keep bumping him, and we're going through this thick bedding area. We decided we got to leave it overnight. It's again like 9:30. We have no idea what direction it went. It'd be better to talk to the neighbor. We're up on his property again. So we decided we're going to pull out and wait till morning. So the next morning at like 9 a.m. the neighbor texted and said he wasn't going to be hunting, so we didn't have to worry about spooking his deer. We can go in there and we can pull down the driveway, which is right next to where we had last lost blood. We can start the search back up. And me and Colin start searching, and basically there's no blood. There's no blood going in any direction. He could have gone, when he came out of the woods, he could have gone to the left in some standing corn, could have gone to the right, over the driveway into this draw that's over there. You could cut back into the woods. We just didn't know. So basically decided we're going to go over to the driveway. It would make the most sense for him to run that direction. We're just going to see if we can find some blood. And we're walking around, and nothing. It's been like almost an hour, and we can't find anything. And so basically we came out of this woods, and the driveway's right here, and then there's a fence line that runs this direction on the other side of the driveway, and we both decided we're going to walk that side of the fence line. We walked it for like 200 yards and saw nothing. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's a corn stalk, and there's no corn over here. It's hay fields, and all the corn's on the other side of the driveway. But there's a bloody, really bloody corn stalk in the middle of this trail. So I was like, okay, we're in the area. Colin comes over. We finish walking this fence line like 600 yards, nothing. So we just stop and we start thinking, what would this deer have done? And I look to our east, down the hill, and I'm like, there's a bottom down there, little pond. You'd have to run through this hayfield, but that just makes the most sense. And basically, we take 2 steps into the hayfield, and the rest is history.
Let's go, dude!
Dude, guys, I don't know what to say. I'm literally like, I just snot balled. I'm like lost for words right now. He's dead 400 yards from where we last bumped him. And so you guys can see this way on this fence line back here, we had a corn stalk, which he hasn't been through standing corn in what, a quarter mile? He's carrying this corn stalk on his antlers. He dropped it, it's got blood on it. He coughed up some blood. So we just started walking this grass. We just started walking this grass down into this draw here, thinking he's bedded in there. And I look to my left, and that's Johnny's grass.
Dude. There he is, Jerod.
Look at that, you guys.
That's amazing.
Alright guys, this is the last video I'm going to take before we start doing something with Johnny. We got to figure out, he's been dead a little while and he's super stiff. I don't know when he died. We jumped him at 9 o'clock. He was still moving pretty good and we were losing blood, so we gave him plenty of time. So we jumped him like 3 or 4 times. And he just looks like he's been dead a while. We're going to figure out how much meat we can get from him. He's a huge deer, so I was really looking forward to that aspect of it. His rack's gone downhill since last year a lot, and it's all broken up. But like I said, the trophy of this deer is 2 things: the absolute massive body and maturity of this deer, and just the story that goes with him. I've wanted to kill this buck since September of last year, maybe even before that. Might have been in July, I don't know. But I've wanted to kill him, and I saw him probably 30 times last year. I've seen him a handful of times this year. I've shot him twice now, and we finally got it done. He's finally on the ground. I can't believe it. I knew this time was going to be the kill shot. I just cannot believe how far this deer went. It's insane. Because I definitely took out all the liver, and you guys saw in the video, he was dumping blood. And he's just a warrior. He'll go for miles with no blood, apparently. But grind season outdoors. I got a buck on the ground for the first time in 4 years. Feels good. Alright guys, last little video. Decided to take one more little one before we cut him up. We're gonna go do that now. Put some ice on him and stuff for now. And I gotta give my thank yous now. Big thank you to Colin. Colin was here when I filmed him last year. Colin's heard me talk about this deer for hours. Colin helped me track it for like 8 hours one night, and I don't even know, 4 or 5 last night. Helped me find it this morning and drag it and do all the work with it. And then who else I got for thank yous? Ethan Pohl helped me. Took some pictures and helped me track it last night. And then the neighbor, I won't say his name just to keep his land and everything private, but really, really cool guy, really helpful. He actually, this is what I wanted to show you guys. He gave me Johnny's sheds from last year. He said, if you come just swing by and show me the deer today, and I'll give you his sheds from last year. And that's when I would have liked to shoot him. Obviously, you can tell he's gone downhill a little bit and he's broken up, but I don't know, it's just a crazy cool story. The chase for Johnny, the invincible buck, is done for. He's got a hole from last weekend, 2 holes from this weekend, and he's finally down, so there he is.